Welcome back, Deep Threat Sports. We're very excited. This episode, we're going to talk Heisman. A lot of talk to talk about there. We're going to talk top 25. So there's going to be a lot of shifts, and some of you guys are probably going to get pissed off. But before we get any further, Colin, Brian, do you guys have anything you guys want to touch base on? Any facts, any random information that you guys got for us? Any gems y'all might have for us? Talk to us.
Yeah, last episode, we talked a little bit about the Billy Napier, the Florida, what's going on in that situation. First, want to point out Billy Napier as head coach of the Florida Gators is 12-16. It's going to cost roughly $26 million to go ahead and get rid of Billy Napier. So kind of look for that maybe to be a slow process, rally up the boosters, kind of decide where they're going to go from there. Quinn Ewers is looking like he's trending in the direction of being out against ULM. My question for Quinn is, if I'm him, I kind of feel like I want to push it a little bit. I kind of want to get back out there. I don't want to have any more, questions if I'm the starter. I don't want Arch maybe to go out there and light it up because ULM is not a good opponent. So Arch probably will light it up if he's a starter for that game, but it's looking like he might be. Tyler Van Dyke. This is kind of bad news for Wisconsin. We kind of thought this might be the direction it was headed, but Tyler Van Dyke looks to be out the rest of the season with injury. Bryant, what do you have for us?
Looks like Michigan's going to roll out Alex Orji to start at quarterback for the foreseeable future, according to sources. I think that's a good move for them. I think all of us on the show agreed they maybe should have started him off the beginning of the season, so we'll see how that goes. Another notable thing is Notre Dame lost their starting center, Ashton Craig, for the foreseeable future and possibly the season. That could be a big blow to the running game and the pass blocking game. I don't know what kind of depth they have there, but hopefully that doesn't affect them too much, but definitely could. And last, McCall got hurt for NC State, and it looks like true freshman C.J. Bailey will be starting next week. So we'll see what he can do, but it's no easy task for a true freshman to start in any conference, nonetheless the ACC.
Most of these notes here aren't exciting, but the most exciting thing of this note for me is Alex Orji getting the nod at the starting position for Michigan. I'm not saying he's going to come out and light the world on fire per se, but I think this Michigan team is definitely better built for Alex Orji and his dual threat capability than Davis Warren, the pocket passer. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I definitely agree. Yeah. I think he provides more of a dual threat aspect too than the previous quarterback. So we'll see what he can do. He hasn't played a ton of snaps, but I think he is more dynamic.
Well, boys, I'm excited to talk about it. Heisman. I know you guys gave me a lot of crap for Travis Hunter last week, and he backed it up. I'm gonna just go ahead and hit you guys with my Heisman guy.
It's almost like Travis Hunter heard you, Dave. It's almost like he said, "I want to make this Dave guy look good."
You think he watched the podcast?
He might be a listener. If he ain't, he is now.
Hey, I tell you what, if he's not a listener, I'm gonna go ahead and forward to him that David and his wife Ashley are the biggest Colorado closet supporters that I've ever met.
Oh, hold on. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm not a Colorado supporter. I'm a Travis Hunter supporter. I could care less for Shedeur Sanders. I know he's a good quarterback, but I care less for him. But you guys are going to be shocked. I don't have Travis Hunter on my number one after this week. He did have a good performance, but somebody that I am impressed with.
This is your week to keep him at number one, Dave. This is your week to keep him. You can justify it.
Yes, but let's talk about my number one. Let's talk about Cam Ward. Cam Ward, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, over 1,000 yards, 94.4 QBR rating. And I think Miami, with their schedule, he's going to keep performing. I mean, once we get in the playoffs, I think they will be a playoffs team. But once we get in the playoffs, that is going to be the difference. But Colorado, I'm still high on Travis Hunter. I got Travis Hunter at number 2. I think he is still that dog that I thought he was. And if he hadn't performed as well as he did this weekend, I think I would have dropped him to 3, truthfully, because my 3 is Jaxson Dart. I think Jaxson Dart has had a hell of a performance. I mean, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, over 1,100 yards. And he is sitting at 3rd with a QBR of 91.6. I think he is a hell of a quarterback. He can sling the rock, something that a lot of other good quarterbacks are struggling with.
I want to give you credit real quick, Dave. Travis Hunter being on your list, I have no bone to pick with that. I'd said last week, that I thought Travis Hunter was a top player in the country, but not the top Heisman guy in the country. But you having him on your list, you look like an absolute genius a week ago. This is absolutely justifiable. I think it's totally fair that he's at your number 2 spot. And what's fun for me is we don't talk together amongst each other about who our top 3 is going to be. And you have a good-looking list this week, Dave. Hey, you ain't going to hear much out of me. You ain't going to hear much negativity out of me with the Travis Hunter thing either. I think that's a pretty fair spot for him, I'll be honest.
Yeah. So that's who I have at top 3 again. After this coming week, it may flip upside down. Jaxson Dart may be at my number 1. But as of now, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Jaxson Dart. I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there. I'm throwing Arch Manning there at the wild card. After the performance he had, if he keeps playing, I don't know. Who knows? Quinn Ewers might get hurt again. And the injury he's got going on, it could happen again. It didn't seem like it was something that was happening in the play of action. It seems like maybe something that has been developing. So they could flare up. And if he keeps missing games, Arch Manning may, show up to be that guy. But again,
he looked to be in some pain. He did look to be in some pain. I will say that.
Yep.
And that helps your wild card Arch Manning pick here. I don't think he has any chance at all. Quinn Ewers is healthy, but yeah, it definitely helps your case a lot if he stays banged up.
Yeah, Dave, I think Vegas agrees with you too. I think Arch Manning's already like 6th or 7th highest odds to win the Heisman at like plus 1,600 just after that game. So I mean, that's definitely a good wild card pick.
Hey, go ahead and put your money on it. Go ahead and put your money on it. Go ahead and put your money on it.
That name's got some traction, don't it?
Should that be a bet of the week? Bet of the week?
Shoo! No, fellas.
You imagine it hits. You imagine Quinn Ewers, that continues to deal with this injury. Arch Manning keeps starting. He crushes. I mean, if he starts, let's say Quinn Ewers is out next week, and then let's say he can recover, because a lot of these injuries, a lot of times it's a hypothetical. We expect, 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, and it may not heal as well as you think it will. So let's say, Arch Manning plays the next 2 weeks and absolutely crushes it. I don't know. How do you sit the guy? That's something that Steve Sarkisian is going to figure out. So we'll see what he does. And then, next week we may be talking about Arch Manning at my number 3 spot, because I'm going to let my picks move around. I'm not going to stick to nobody. So one person I'm curious to see your top 3 for Heisman. Colin, who do you got?
I kind of talked about how we don't talk about this amongst each other first. We don't converse about who's where. Does Dave have this guy? Does Brian have this guy? Yeah, Dave, like I said, great list. I got Cam Ward at number 1 as well. That's why I think your list is great. We see eye to eye on the number 1. He talked about his season stats, over 1,000 yards already, 11 touchdowns, 1 interception. Last week, I had him not at my number 1. I bump him up this week. He came out, threw for 346 yards and 5 touchdowns. Cam Ward's not taking any weeks off. He's not taking any plays off. This guy's an absolute stud, difference maker for Miami. Miami's off to the races. We had them going 12-0 on here, and I think he solidifies that Miami really can have an undefeated season in the ACC. My number 2, Jaxson Dart. Dave, you touched on it. Jaxson Dart's a machine right now. He's dialed in. We talked last week about how he had more touchdown passes than incompletions. He's a little off on that now, but truthfully, not by much. I'm pretty sure it's still single digits. Talked about how Cam Ward's over 1,000 yards. Well, guess what? Jaxson Dart's over 1,100 yards, closing in on 1,200. He's sitting at 1,172 on the season, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, had 377 yards passing this last week and 2 touchdowns. Answering all the questions. Jaxson Dart, Cam Ward, very, very tough 1-2 to pull out in front of at this point. Number 3, I'm still not getting rid of my guy. Did you really think I was getting rid of my guy? My guy, Ashton Jeanty? He's still on my top 3 list. Number 3, just because he had a bye week doesn't mean we go anywhere with him. Ashton Jeanty on the season at 459 rushing yards and 9 touchdowns. Guy's an absolute animal. If you don't have him on your list, I think you're doing something wrong, bye week or not. This guy's the real deal, the real damn deal. And I'm going to have him on my list all the way through unless this guy snaps a hit. So, fellas, go ahead. Throw me some more shade about Ashton Jeanty. He ain't going nowhere.
Colin, hear me out. I'm not going to say that Ashton Jeanty is not a contender for the Heisman, but my thing is, I know for a fact he's not going to win it. And here's why, because I'm going to give you some quick facts here. I did a little bit of digging, a little bit of research into the Heisman because, again, I just like to be curious and look into stuff. So 4 out of the last 4 players in the last 24 years, so from 2000, 2004 to 2024, only 4 of them have not been quarterbacks. And I'm gonna read you off who these guys are. And you tell me if you generally think that Ashton Genty is in the same conversation as these guys. So right off the bat, we got Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush in 2005. And then let's see, who do we got next? Then we've got Derrick Henry in 2015. So another big name. Mark Ingram in 2009. And then Devontae Smith in 2020. Again, out of those 4, I don't think Ashton Genty is in that competition. But hear me out. Before you say something, hear me out. My thing is, if he was going to win the Heisman, he would be at your number 1. I think he's holding on there because he's putting up good numbers. And I'm not saying he's a bad player, but I don't think he will win it, because if you're going to win it as a non-quarterback player, you have got to be the number 1 guy and number 1 guy most of the season.
You're absolutely correct, Dave. I truly don't think Ashton Genty wins the Heisman. I really don't. I'm trying to make the case for him right now. And look, it's early. We're only, we're going on week 4 this coming week, I think. So I'm just trying to make the case up to this point that I think he is the most talented player, especially in the group of 5 by a million. And I think he's doing his part. I'm just trying to make the case where I'm getting at is to have him invited to the Heisman ceremony. I don't think he should win it. I don't think he's going to win it. But I do think he should be invited. I think he should be a top 3 finisher, especially at this point. Obviously, a lot can still change, but thus far, I just want him to be invited, and he is a hardcore contender for that award, in my opinion. One thing I noticed that Ashton Genty doesn't have in common with 3 out of the 4 guys you mentioned is he doesn't play for the Alabama Crimson Tide. So, yes, not playing for them is going to make it a little tougher. Not playing for a Power 5 team is going to make it Power 4 team now a little bit tougher. The odds are stacked against him. But the guy is doing absolutely miraculous things at the running back position at this Boise State program.
I'm going to follow up that. Oh, sorry, Brian.
I was going to say, I think if he keeps putting up these eye-popping numbers, he's going to still be in the conversation for at least getting an invite.
I just want him invited. If he keeps this up, you have to give that guy respect, and you just have to invite him. You don't have to win, just invite him.
Yep.
Show me what you got, Bryant.
Like Colin said, we don't really share our Heisman picks throughout the week. We kind of generate them before this episode and go over them here. But my number 1 is also Cam Ward. Like he said, over 1,000 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, only 1 interception. Looked absolutely dynamic last week with over almost 350 yards and 5 touchdowns. I just think he's the most complete player in college football. It sits right now after week 3. And also number 2 is Jaxson Dart for me as well. Almost 1,200 yards. 8 touchdowns and 1 interception. Still, he almost has, more touchdowns than incompletions. I think that got switched a little bit this week, but it's still an eye-popping number. He's also very dynamic. And my third is going against you guys. It's also a quarterback in the SEC. I'm going with Jalen Milroe, quarterback, Alabama Crimson Tide. 590 yards on the season, 8 touchdowns. He also has let's see here. Let's look at his rushing stats. He has 156 yards on the ground and had 6 touchdowns. So he has 14 touchdowns total. Last week against Wisconsin, he had 196 yards through the air and another, what was it here? Sorry, it was 196 on the ground and 75 rushing and 2 touchdowns. He doesn't have as great of stats as these other 2 guys as far as passing, but he is more dynamic with his feet. He can make plays with his feet. He's not the jump off the stat sheet type player, but I think he's the best overall game manager type, put the team on the back quarterback in the SEC. So that's why I have him at number 3.
Brian. Totally fair. Totally fair. Before Dave tries to chime in here saying Milroe doesn't belong on this list, this is totally fair. Milroe was due to be on somebody's list. I am glad as a network, one of us has him on our list. I think it's a great fit. I think you're absolutely correct, Bryant. Hell, it wouldn't surprise me if some people have him out there as number 1 or number 2. So We're going to get Dave's hot take here because he's still sold on everybody else other than Milroe and Carson Beck. Let's talk about that real quick before I do kick it back to Dave. Carson Beck, we had a fan come on here last week, tell us we better have that dog quarterback in our top 3. Man, what a performance he had last week, huh? To get himself in that top 3. Looks like he's going the opposite direction. Last week we probably had him in our honorable mentions, and right now he's slipping. I'm not saying he can't come right back because I'm sure he does. but I'm going to get a little fun out of this while I can. Carson Beck, I don't see anywhere right now, my buddy.
No, I think, and I'm going to go back to something I kind of hinted on last week, and I'm going to apply to Carson Beck now. If you are truly the best player in the country, you don't have an off week. You are performing week in and week out, and I think that's why there's a trend between all three of us that Cam Ward is our number one. Because, like you said, Colin, he has not let off the gas. And I think that is what a Heisman guy does.
Well, I think the Georgia performances and the Georgia win column is probably going to get Carson Beck's name back in that conversation. And I have no problems with it. Just like we've kind of talked about here a couple of times, I just don't think he is with these guys that we're talking about right now. I'm not saying he can't be there in 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, but as it sits right now, I don't think he's in this conversation, especially for me.
I'm gonna hit back right to Jalen Milroe, and I think at this point he is. I think he would be that number 3. But man, the next month for him is going to be rough. I mean, they're playing Georgia in 2 weeks because they do have their. So we got Georgia in 2 weeks. Your easiest game is probably looking at maybe Vanderbilt the week afterwards, and then you're playing South Carolina, and then back-to-back weekends, you've got University of Tennessee, and then you got Mizzou. I mean, I think he's a great.
Hey, real quick, you're talking about something here that just it's one of those moments, you guys know me, where something popped in my brain and we have to talk about it because you're bringing up a really good point here. Georgia's schedule is just as hard as Florida's schedule, correct? But the only difference is Georgia doesn't have Georgia on their own schedule. That's probably the only difference, right? That I can think of. So, yeah, Dave, great point. I mean, Jalen Milroe's got a hell of an uphill battle. And to Bryant's defense here, if Jalen Milroe keeps doing what he's doing against his opponents, yeah, I mean, this guy's number 1 probably at the end then if he's doing what he's doing right now against those guys, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why I slotted him in here this week. You know, he's done this against, I'll call it a little lesser competition. But right now, for me, I think he's just passing the eye test. He just looks very complete and in control of the game, both rushing and passing. I mean, he's completing almost 68% of his passes on the year with, not a true one wide receiver. Yes, Ryan Williams is pretty good and some of the other guys. But like I said, I think it's an eye test thing for me. And to your point, Dave, we're going to see how he plays this next month. And if he goes out and balls out, I think he'll be on number 1. Maybe a few of our lists and a lot of people around the country.
Hey, if he can perform, I'm all for it. But hinting off of Georgia, Alabama, there's a lot of good teams fighting for these top 25 spots because of the playoffs. So let's hit on into our top 25 because there's a lot of movement, a lot of shifts. And some of you guys are going to be excited. Some of you guys are not. So, Colin, toss that top 25 up for us so everyone kind of see what we got, and then let's talk about it. So, again, these are all eye tests based off wins and losses. It's just our opinion. It's going to be very different from the AP Top 25 a lot of times. And every week we restart from scratch. We're not going off of last week, anything like that. So right off the bat, at honorable mention, we've got Syracuse, Notre Dame, and Washington State. 3 teams that haven't been great, but have been pretty good. And then we're going to start at 25. I'm going to go work my way up, and then we're going to talk about them. So 25, A&M, 24, NIU, 23, Clemson, 22, Michigan, 21, Memphis, 20, LSU. And then at 19, we've got Louisville. Number 18, we got Illinois. 17, Nebraska. 16, Iowa State. 15, Oklahoma. 14, Utah. 13, Oklahoma State. 12, Kansas State. 11, USC. 10, Penn State. Number 9, we've got Oregon. Number 8, the hometown team, we've got Mizzou. Alabama at number 7. Number 6, Ole Miss. Miami number 5, and then things get crazy. We got Tennessee at number 4, Ohio State 3, Georgia and Texas. The next 2 teams, Georgia at 2, Texas at 1. Arch Manning, is he going to take them to the promised land? Let's talk about it, boys.
The first thing I want to talk about is I just wish this was a full-time job for all of us because we were all conversing over the weekend right after Saturday night's games about how Texas was going to be our new number 1. And damn it, the AP voters beat us to it. They got out there in front of us and slid them up there first, so it looks like we're copying them. But our true fans know that Dave brought this point up last week. Dave brought up a couple of points last week that we've talked about on this episode that really are working. Travis Hunter and Texas at number 1. I'll be damned, Dave. You do know some shit. This is working for you. I love it. Bryant, we kind of hee-hawed around a little bit last week about if Texas should be number 1. There's no questions they're number 1 now, right?
No, not. I 100% agree. Especially when your number 2 quarterback comes in and plays like he does there. Granted, it was San Antonio, University of Texas, San Antonio, but still, they just looked, extremely dynamic on offense, a lockdown defense, playmakers all over the field. So I totally agree. Texas is number 1.
I think the difference here between those top 4, so Texas, Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, is the quarterback position. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Tennessee move up another spot simply because, again, quarterbacks. If you don't have a good quarterback, you're struggling, kind of like we're looking at Florida and a couple other teams. Texas has an amazing, amazing starter, and then they got an amazing backup.
Ohio State's as deep as anybody at quarterback. I just want to throw that out there. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
They've got 4 guys that could go start at most places in the country.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and that's kind of what I was hitting at, and that's why I would probably, if we were to even make some slight changes, it would be Texas, Ohio State, then Georgia and Tennessee is kind of going to bounce around because, again, Nico at Tennessee, we haven't looked at the backup play much, so we don't know what that looks like. But again, Tennessee loses Nico, they may drop out. They may drop.
I don't want to gamble on injuries too much, though, is my thing. I try to stay away from the gambling on injuries. I know the Quinn Ewers injury thing kind of seems to keep happening over and over, kind of repeating season to season. So, yes, it does work well that Arch Manning is there. But, yeah, if I'm putting all my chips on a quarterback in this top 4, that's just, not counting backups, I'm putting my money on Nico. Nico Iamaleava is as electric and as good as anybody in the country with his arm and his legs. So people sometimes think we're crazy talking about Tennessee to be in our top 4. Man, I could sit here and make a case all night about how Tennessee could really be my number 1. I don't think they're obviously I don't think they are, but I mean we could make that case.
Absolutely, I agree, Colin, and that's why I said there's just these top 4 like. Within 20 minutes, you could convince me of Tennessee being a 1, and you could convince me of Ohio State being a 1. I mean, I think these top 4 are pretty solid.
Absolutely.
And shoot, even Miami. I mean, let's look at Miami.
Absolutely.
We just talked 100%. Cam Ward. We just talked in Ole Miss. We talked Jaxson Dart. I mean, they
absolutely.
I'm going to go ahead. Brian talked to Alabama. So, I mean, I will say number 8, Mizzou. I think this is I think they're number 8 because Brady Cook. And I'm not saying he's bad. I really am not. But I just don't think he is a dog like these other 7 guys ahead of him.
Well, I agree. My case on this is, and man, this is hard to say as a Mizzou fan, but it's the truth. I think 7 and up, teams 1 through 7, they're just different. I think those are truly, if anybody on this show or anybody outside of this show came to me and made a case that they put their money on any team that we have in this 1 through 7 column to win the national championship, you could sell me. And I don't think it'd be hard to sell me. That 1 through 7 is so hard to put together. I mean, they are all so great, so dynamic. They're all great in every aspect of the game. Those 7 teams are different, man.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's definitely a teardrop between top 7 and Mizzou and the teams below them. So I agree. The one thing I do want to note, we're going to definitely see what kind of team Tennessee is this week. They're on the road against Oklahoma and Norman. So I think if they win that game, if they win convincingly, they move up even higher. If they get blown out, they obviously are going to go down. So we'll see what happens. I think they win that game, but I don't know. That's going to be a test for them.
Oklahoma blows them out, then we're going to have to have a different conversation about Oklahoma at that point.
That's what I'm saying. We're going to find out. We're going to find out what kind of team this is this week.
Absolutely. I think Tennessee gets it done, not to jump ahead, and get too caught up in that. But that line's been all over the place. I think it started like down around 2.5, 3.5 minus Tennessee. And now I think it's growing up to -7, -7.5, -8 at places for Tennessee. So yeah, everybody's with us on this, this kind of take that we had that Tennessee is the real deal.
You think they'll kick an onside kick in the first half again this week?
Well, I'm a nuts. I don't even know what to say about that. When I saw that live, I about fell over. I mean, I think it's awesome. Josh Heupel tipped the cap. It's just pad the stats. Man, I love it. Hey, whatever, man. Kent State, you came here to get your ass kicked, so we're gonna kick your ass, and that's what they did.
Yep.
Honestly, boys, I think, looking into next week, I wouldn't be surprised if Mizzou drops down to a 9. I mean, Mizzou plays a Vanderbilt team that has proven to have some talent. I know things didn't go their way this week, but Oregon plays UCLA, which has not been playing good at all. So I think Oregon and Dylan Gabriel are going to put up a heck of a game looking this week. So we may look at Mizzou being a 9 and Oregon popping up. But I mean, I think
I can accept that. I want to talk about a point that you just brought. What I can't accept, in my opinion, that maybe this is just me being a Mizzou fan, but what I can't accept is Mizzou was one of the only 4 teams to play in a top 25 ranked matchup last week, and the AP slides them down.
I agree.
They beat a top 25 opponent, and you slide them down. That doesn't make sense to me. If you don't think Boston College is a top 25 caliber opponent or a good win, then they should have made their list the correct way the week before. And if they have doubts in Boston College, maybe they shouldn't have ranked them. So I don't think you can move them down going into this week after a top 25 win. But I noticed how on our list, we also didn't move them up here on our network. We kept them right where they were. They had a top 25 win. Wasn't a convincing win, but hey, you got the win. That's better than most wins anybody else has on the schedule this last week. Stay where they're at. We just clearly said we think there's a gap between the top 7 and them. But yeah, Dave, I think they could slide down against a Vandy opponent next week who's not going to be a top 25 team, obviously. It's not as good of a win no matter what because they just lost to an FCS Georgia State team who we had our bet slip placed on Vanderbilt to cover against an FCS opponent. We were very confident in it, so they really let us down. They really let Mizzou down. They come into this game 3-0. This is a different conversation about this Vandy game. Well, now it's just, hey, same old Vandy doormat. You need to kick the shit out of them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people around the country, and probably us included, are waiting for that Mizzou Texas A&M game and see how that's going to go October 5th, and before they start moving Mizzou up, if they do win that game, like they probably should, at least as far as Vegas is concerned.
One thing I want to talk about too, we're going to try to go through this list and just hit on a couple key things throughout it. Not dive too deep and get caught up because there's so much change that's going to happen week to week. But I want to tip the cap to Illinois. I know we have them at our 18. We recognize the wins. We recognize what they're putting together. I also want to tip my cap to Memphis. Group of 5 team getting in the mix here. We swung on this last episode about how we're pretty proud of what Memphis is accomplishing. Looking really good. A lot of parity for the group of 5 to get that last spot in the playoffs. Memphis sliding up from 9 ranked to 21 on our list. We don't think FSU is that great. But, hey, when you're Memphis and you go win, what's the name of their stadium? Doak Walker? Is that the name of their stadium? Yep. I think correct.
Doak Campbell.
So they go. Okay, sorry, I stand correct. So they go down there. Anyway. Wherever they go down to Florida State. All right, whatever you want to call that stadium, we might rename it. Miami Hurricane Stadium by the end of the season. Not to piss somebody off, but anyway, hey, Memphis goes down there and gets that win on the road like that. That's a big win for a Group of 5 program. Memphis is really doing good things, and I really think Memphis could slide into that 12 spot if everything stays the course.
I agree, Colin. And I when we looked at this top 25, I said Memphis at 21, okay, but I think by the end of the season they may move up, pretty significantly because they don't have any hard games, looking forward on the schedule. I know they are playing USF, but there's nobody really crazily good. And you kind of hinted at earlier in the year, Colin, when you mentioned, Liberty, you mentioned Memphis, like it's their spot to lose. They have to secure the bag and it's their spot to lose, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. Well, I know NIU. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I look at the kind of the bottom half of this list and there's quite a bit of teams on here that have some talent, have a definite chance to move up. I mean, Nebraska's there. Iowa State's a pretty good team.
I love Nebraska and I love Iowa State. I love both those teams a lot.
I do think Clemson's still a pretty damn good team. I think they just ran to a freight train week 1 against Clemson. And I think there's a lot of teams that can make some movement here, but we'll see how it plays out as I know there's a lot of tough games coming up for some of these teams. Yeah,
Clemson hit a buzzsaw to start the season at Georgia. I mean, nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
But one thing I'll talk about too is, Northern Illinois doesn't slide out of our list. We're not going to punish Northern Illinois for going on a bye last week. And that win against Notre Dame looks that much better after Notre Dame goes in and kicks the shit out of Purdue. Mm-hmm. So this is a reassuring win for Notre Dame, but it's an even more reassuring win for Northern Illinois. This is absolutely huge for them to watch Notre Dame bounce back and kind of answer some questions that maybe people had about them. Just makes them look that much better. Northern Illinois might have the best win on the season still in that Notre Dame game. That seriously could be the best win of the season thus far.
I agree.
Colin, let me ask you. Let's say Memphis wins out, because I think Memphis does win out. Let's say Liberty wins out, and let's say Northern Illinois wins out, because looking at I just pulled up their schedule, and maybe their toughest opponent is NC State. And again, you guys hinted at it earlier that Grayson McCall is out. We don't know what that quarterback position is going to look like for them. So what do you do if all three of these teams win out? Northern Illinois with a win over Notre Dame. Let's say Notre Dame performs well. Do you leave Memphis out? Do you leave Liberty out? I mean, that's gonna stir the pot up there.
Man, if all things are equal in the sense of win-loss column, you got to get the nod to Northern Illinois. I mean, we're small sample size talking here from what we know right now. Northern Illinois may have a small margin of victory in the remainder of their games, but this Memphis, I don't remember what Memphis' schedule looked like, but I do remember Florida State off the top of my head being their hardest opponent, and Florida State looks awful. So this is not the most convincing of wins to make the playoff push when you're matching up against the Northern Illinois, where Notre Dame looks like they're going to bounce right back and probably perform pretty well, at least better than Florida State does. And Northern Illinois beat them at Notre Dame. So, yeah, I think you have to, if all things are equal, like I said, in the win-loss, I think you have to give that nod to Northern Illinois. But then again, we don't know how the rest of things play out the remainder of this season. But, yeah, that's the direction that I would lean right now.
No, I definitely agree. I think Northern Illinois' win as it sits in that Notre Dame team, Notre Dame looks to be the better team out of any of these wins that Memphis has or that any of the other group of 5 teams has. So I agree with Colin. I think you have to keep NIU in that scenario in the 12th spot.
Well, and Liberty doesn't look good thus far. I'm not impressed with Liberty at all. I don't know, maybe they came into the season a little overhyped and a little overconfident, and now they're kind of just floating through, just trying to get by. But if I remember correctly on Liberty too, their hardest opponent all season is App State. And that's not that doesn't match up at all against the Northern Illinois win against Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's not going to make you a highly ranked team.
Exactly. Hell, I'd be more inclined to think that Boise State would be more inclined to make it than a Liberty, just because Boise State played Oregon neck and neck.
Exactly.
But yeah, I do want to say, hey, too, A&M, welcome back to the rankings for us. We thought you could get here. We thought you could do it. We're so damn proud of you. Welcome back. Mizzou, come down there and knock your ass back out of the top 25 before it's all said and done. Hey, Utah, we got you here at 14. Just a Cam Rising update. Does he come back again next year? He's hurt right now. Does he want to come back and do it again next year?
Didn't he break a nail or something like that?
Something with his hand. I don't remember. I think it was something with his hand, yeah.
Let me tell you, at the age of 27, things start to hurt. That they don't hurt when you're 17 like Ryan Williams. Let me tell you.
Hey, what a comparison. You're right. We might have the youngest college player of all time and the oldest college player of all time in the league at the same time right now. What a time to be a college football fan. I really am excited to watch Penn State, USC, Ohio State all come back off these byes this week. I'm pretty high on all those teams. I can't get enough of this USC team right now, fellas. I think it's because I was low on them coming into the season because of everything we've ever seen about that defense. I wasn't going to buy in again to Lincoln Riley selling me that, hey, the defense improved. And then, 3 weeks later, the defense has not improved. But right now, that defense looks really, really, really good. Miller Moss looks really, really, really good. And I really think USC can fly up our rankings still. I think the sky's the limit for them. So I'm really excited to see what they do. Don't they play Michigan this week? Don't we have a USC-Michigan matchup this week, I think?
Yes, we do.
USC is going to beat the hell out of them, I think, right? That's kind of the direction I'm going to lean.
I was just going to bring on Michigan. I think we're just kind of keeping them here a little bit just because they did, run into that buzzsaw in week 2 of Michigan. But they did not look very good against Arkansas State. So they have a chance to prove themselves this week with the quarterback change to Alex Orji. We'll see if that helps, but I'm excited for that game as well.
You're exactly right, Brian. Michigan is one of the hardest teams I think, for me to rank, because their losses to Texas, who we have as the number one team on our list. So how do you punish them that much? But then again, every other win they have, which is 2, looks horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you just beat Arkansas State 28-18. Congratulations, you won. But wow, man. Arkansas State 28-18, and you're Michigan. You just won the national championship last year. And your margin of victory against Arkansas State was 10. You know, Michigan, for me, all things considered, has to stay above a team like Notre Dame, because as we talk about a narrow margin win of 10 to Arkansas State, Notre Dame didn't have that narrow margin win against Northern Illinois. So I think you're right. I think Michigan's probably just going to keep floating around in there unless USC does kick the hell out of them, and then you have a 2-2 team. Absolutely no way that I think a 2-2 team through 4 weeks should be in our top 25. So I'll make a case like hell next week to keep them out of our rankings with you guys if USC takes care of business like I think they're going to.
I'm with you, Colin. Another matchup that will shake up these top 25 will be Utah playing Oklahoma State. I think, truthfully, I think Oklahoma State should catch the dub here.
What's your guys' thoughts on LSU? This is another hard team for me to rank. They're kind of right there with Michigan for me. I'm so all over the place with LSU. Gosh damn, I cannot narrow them down.
I think they're a top 25 team, but I would almost put money that they do not make playoffs. By no chance, no shot.
Well,
they went out.
I don't think they make the playoffs at all. I think their playoff shots are playoff hopes. Should say are done. Those are done.
Absolutely.
But
it's just hard. It's just hard to see where they go with how bad their defense has been playing.
It is, man. They're so talented on the offensive side of the ball that you can't ever rule them out of any football game.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, that defense, they match up against some of these top teams. That defense just can't hold up, man.
I mean, they gave up 33 to South Carolina, and yeah, we do like South Carolina, but South Carolina is no, top tier offense. So, and then also that first week against USC, the defense was Swiss cheese there too. So, if their defense can shore it up, I mean, they could definitely move up this list. But they're a very hard team to rank right now. I agree.
Yeah, now South Carolina played a hell of a football game, so that 33 is a hard fought 33. But to your point, Brian, that was against Lenore Sellers and Robbie Ashford. That wasn't against Jalen Milroe. That wasn't against Nico. That wasn't against Jaxson Dart. I mean, this was against Lenore Sellers, who really struggles to throw the football, in my opinion, and Robbie Ashford, who looked absolutely clueless, like he was running for his life. It looked like seeing ghost out there at the quarterback position.
Yep.
Well, gentlemen, we've talked a lot about the top 25. I'm going to go ahead and open the air up. If there's anything you guys want to add, throw in. I know we've talked a lot, throughout this episode and even through the previous episode. Anything else you guys want to throw out there? Any questions, comments, concerns?
No, man, I actually I don't have much at this point. I think us three are doing a hell of a job at covering all this content. I think we're really knocking the big hitters out. I think we're really providing the most information, the most content, tons of stats, tons of details for our fans out there. Bryant, you're doing a hell of a job. Glad we brought you on, man. This is a ton of fun with adding you to this, having another dynamic. Dave, you just keep doing what you're doing, big dog. I love having you do the intros and the introductions. You're killing it for us. Still love the Travis Hunter. Love the Texas. You're looking like an absolute genius, actually, right now. And it's really working out for you, and I love it. But, yeah, I don't have much. I'm excited. This college football season's been awesome. This 12-team playoffs got a whole new dynamic, whole new excitement. We're talking about teams down here in the 17 through 25 range because, hey, they still have a chance too. They are mathematically in it to win it all the way. And lots of parity. We love talking about the group of five. Group of five's got tons of parity. Makes this awesome. Makes this really fun for us. Gives us tons of good content to cover. This is just a ton of fun, boys.
Yeah, I agree. I think we covered week 3 really well. We'll see what happens week 4. I just want to say quickly thank you to everybody that's listened to us. Spread the word, like, subscribe, hit the notification on YouTube so you can see whenever we post it, it'll pop up and you can watch it right away. I think we're good. It's been a good time. We do definitely dive deep, really well. So excited to see how the rest of the season goes.
Absolutely, gentlemen. I'm not going to say a whole lot more because Bryant, Colin kind of hinted, we're just very thankful for all of you that have continued to listen to us from day one. And even everyone that has started listening to us in the last week or two. Again, we're going to continue producing great content. We're going to try to make it relatable for you guys. And again, we're going to try to make it to where it's our own opinion, where it's not, directly what other media is portraying. But again, we're having tons of fun. We're enjoying it. And yes, the best part is we've got 3 different unique personalities, mindset. So that's a great part. You see it at the Heisman position where we all had pretty much the same 2 guys, but then we all had that 3rd guy that was different. But that's what's going to be exciting for you guys.
Well, you bring up a great point, Dave. We don't want to just be another show, man. We don't want to just fall in line and just be another show where you come here and you hear the same damn thing you heard 25 minutes ago on a different show that you listen to. We want to be different. That's why our Heisman takes are going to be a little different. That's why our rankings are going to be a little different. You absolutely hit the nail on the head, Dave.
Absolutely. So again, thank you everyone for supporting us. Like Bryant said, hit the like, hit us with a comment, share it, negative, positive. We want all the feedback. But again, thank you guys for supporting us. And don't forget to follow up and listen to the preview for next week. We're going to talk about it. We're going to give you some great information. And again, I may be right about a lot of things, but I'm also going to be wrong a lot about. Damn it.
Hey, I tell you what, that whole take right there was wrong in my opinion, Dave. But hey, I think what you're getting at, we're going to be right a lot. We're going to be wrong a lot. We're going to address our first losing week that we've had all season. We'll get to that next episode in our Book It segment. We're going to come back and try to get some dubs this next week. Look for us to do a big game breakdown on all the big games that we have out there. Hey, fellas, this has been a ton of fun. Like, subscribe, follow, YouTube, Deep Threat Sports, Spotify, Deep Threat Sports, X, Twitter, call it what you want, DT_sports_. Bryant, Dave, you guys got anything else?
I'm good.
Excited for week 4.
Hey, week 4, here we come. The train's coming, baby. Peace.